after producing a definitive endpoint for video game football in the modern era with NFL 2K, and gesturing towards the future with a profound jumping-off point for modern video game basketball with NBA 2K, the Sega team set their sights on a new sport: hockey. Hockey was a surprisingly easy sport to depict digitally from an early era, since it lacks football's rigid playbook structure or the exacting ambiguity of basketball shooting. It's honestly not too far from Pong, which is essentially air hockey. There are quite a few more Golden Age hockey games that remain playable than other sports, including 1981's Ice Hockey for Atari 2600, as well as 1988's Ice Hockey for the NES, and the Nintendo port of Blades of Steel. In the 90s, Madden mostly became the gold football standard through saturation attrition, and the only NBA game that was truly iconic was the most cartoony representation of the sport. But hockey received a gold standard basically immediately that consistently knocked it out of the park, to mix sports metaphors. An annual series by Electronic Arts. Starting with 1991's NHL Hockey, EA put out a series of games so resolutely iconic that you'll find half a dozen being cited as the clear best one. From the cartoony violence of NHL PA Hockey 93, to the technical innovation and graphical power of NHL 94, to the speed and crisp control of NHL 95. Every 16-bit entry in the series was a vivid, beloved one. Even more impressively, they deftly made the jump to polygonal 3D graphics and sound with NHL 97 and NHL 98, with some critics calling those the best of the series. This was the market that Sega was entering into, and unlike NFL 2K or NBA 2K, they would not be hailed as conquering saviors the same way, because hockey was not a genre that needed saving. They would have to bring their A-game to stand out in a market that wasn't searching for a hero. We discussed back on the NFL 2K episode that Electronic Arts wanted to be the exclusive sports game publisher for the Dreamcast, despite Sega having just purchased and retrofitted their own in-house studio for specifically that. EA pitched a fit when they were turned down, banning EA sports titles from appearing on the Dreamcast. So EA had stiff, acclaimed competition already out in NHL 99, which came out the same month the Dreamcast did in Japan, and NHL 2000, which came out the same month the Dreamcast did in North America. So how does Sega's confusingly similarly titled NHL 2K stack up? Well, it's fine. The thing about those football and basketball titles is that they were produced by Visual Concepts, the exemplary team that got bought up and renamed Sega Sports. NHL 2K, on the other hand, was helmed by a first-time developer known as Black Box Studios, and unfortunately has too many of the flaws and hallmarks of a typical first attempt. To start off with a compliment, the game looks great, graphically sharp like its forebears, albeit with some frame rate jitters here and there, but compared to their opponents running on a quarter of the processing power, it's not even a competition. NHL 99 and NHL 2000 obviously look a lot worse, but they make up for it with sharp, responsive control, in-depth customization settings, and consistently involving gameplay. From the start, those games feel intuitive, and even though I'd never played those ones specifically, I've been playing hockey games my entire life, and they were very easy to pick up and understand, to get in the groove of things. NHL 2K was a little more of a chore to play through. I found the AI to be really stupid for both teams, and players were consistently not making sensible decisions or innately heading towards the puck, which led to more desperation button mashing, which leads to things like accidentally becoming the goalie with the puck and abandoning it to the opposition more times than I'd like. The buttons were a little stiffer and, again, less intuitive. I found it less pick up and play than NHL 99, but not in a way that felt like I was being challenged with a steeper learning curve, just struggles with responsiveness when it came to instinctual reaction speed. It isn't bad by any means. If you had a Dreamcast and wanted to play a hockey game, NHL 2K is choice 1 of 1. I don't regret playing it. I gave it several whirls and enjoyed myself well enough. But while playing contemporary football and basketball game competition deepened my appreciation of what NFL and NBA 2K were doing, basically the worst thing I could have done for my enjoyment of NHL 2K is playing EA's recent offerings immediately before it. Because while Sega's presentation was good, it paled in comparison in so many little experiential ways that made it feel like a subpar experience. And every game played on NHL 2K was a game I was wishing I was playing on NHL 99 instead. I don't regret doing that research, because if there's anything that counts as the driving theme of this project, it's the desire to give you the necessary context for the atmosphere of its era, to put these games in their place in history. If you were in 6th grade in February of 2000, like I was, and you owned hockey games for both the PlayStation and the Dreamcast, you'd know exactly which one you wanted to come back to and why. For the record, I did own a PlayStation in February of 2000, and I did own a hockey game, but it was the extremely silly arcade hockey game NHL Rock the Rink, not any of these serious simulations. Either way, none of my time with NHL 2K really felt wasted. And again, if this was your only option, it's a completely acceptable one. But even knowing it's a new developer, this game is clearly being slotted into the lineage of two of the most important sports games of its era. And unfortunately, NHL 2K just can't quite hold up its end of the bargain. Next time, here at Fighting Game HQ, we've got small teams crafting engaging combat and compelling narrative, but most of our resources go to the most important part of any good fighting game, perfecting the physics of a big old titty.